Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going deep on something that really caught our eye online.
Oh, yeah, this one was interesting.
So picture this, you stumble across like $1.5 million
Whoa.
in inheritance, right? Like winning the lottery, but not quite as much.
Right.
The question is, could you just retire? Like right then and there, live off the interest.
I see ya.
Someone on Reddit asked that exact thing on the Sore Money subreddit, and hoo boy people had opinions.
Yeah, that's a question that speaks to a lot of folks' dreams, doesn't it? Like financial freedom, ditch the job, just live off your investment.
Totally. But like 1.5 million, yes, a lot of money. But is it actually enough to last a lifetime? Especially with everything getting more expensive these days.
You're hitting on the big question there.
Mm.
And this is where understanding APY comes in. That's annual percentage yield.
Right, APY.
It's basically how much your money grows each year from interest. So higher APY means more passive income coming in.
Okay, so bigger is better there.
Mm.
But how much APY would you need to live comfortably off 1.5 million?
And that's what got everyone on Reddit fired up. There's no single answer. It all comes down to your lifestyle, your spending, what comfortable even means to you.
And that's what's so fascinating about this, right? Comfortable is different for everyone.
100%. Someone in a small town with no mortgage and simple tastes might be set for life with 1.5 mil. But someone in, say, New York City, big mortgage, fancy lifestyle, it might not go as far.
Plus, the person who posted this, they graduated back in 2018, so we're talking today's economy. And they mentioned it was their teacher who brought this up. Apparently, this teacher planned to retire if their parents passed away and live off the inheritance and never work again.
Sounds like that teacher's plan is based on the 4% rule, a pretty common guideline for retirement withdrawals. The idea is to withdraw 4% of your initial investment every year.
So for 1.5 million, that'd be.
About $60,000 per year before taxes. The logic is that historically the stock market grows faster than inflation. So if your investments are growing at, say, 7% per year and you're only taking out 4%, you're theoretically good.
But there are some big assumptions baked into that 4% rule, right? What if the market tanks?
You got it. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Plus, that rule assumes you'll be retired for 30 years if you retire earlier or live longer. Got to adjust that withdrawal rate.
And everyone's different, right? Risk tolerance, health, how much you need to cover expenses, that all matters.
Absolutely. No cookie cutter solution here. Retirement planning has to be tailored to you.
It's definitely more than just looking at the lump sum of money, right? It's about how you actually want to live your life.
For sure. And that brings up another hot topic from that Reddit thread. Investment strategies. Because the APY you get can vary a lot depending on how you invest. Some folks were talking about dividend-paying stocks. Others mentioned index funds or bonds.
Oh, and REITs came up too, which I got to admit, I need a refresher on what those are all about.
So REITs stand for Real Estate Investment Trusts. They're basically companies that own or finance properties that generate income,
Okay.
like office buildings, shopping malls, apartments, that kind of thing. And they can be a good way to add some real estate to your portfolio without actually having to be a landlord yourself. Buy and manage properties directly.
It's like more hands-off.
Exactly. And because REITs have to distribute a lot of their income to shareholders, they often have pretty decent dividend yields compared to other investments.
Makes sense. But I'm guessing there's still risks, right?
Yeah.
Like anything else.
Oh, for sure. REITs can be sensitive to changes in interest rates and the whole real estate market in general. You got to do your homework.
Right. Always a trade-off. Speaking of trade-offs, someone in that thread was saying they aim for like 8 to 10% returns on their investments, even after fees, with the help of a financial advisor.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, it's definitely possible to get those kinds of returns, but usually means taking on more risk.
Right.
A financial advisor can be helpful there. They can help you navigate those risks and come up with a plan that matches your goals and risk tolerance. But you always got to do your research, make sure you understand those fees and the potential downsides before jumping in.
So it's not just about chasing the highest returns. It's about finding that balance between risk and reward.
Exactly. And that brings us back to something we talked about earlier. What does comfortable really mean for you? Because that's going to shape all your financial decisions, the level of risk you're willing to take.
Right. Because comfortable is subjective. For some people, it's like traveling the world first class all the time. For others, it might be living simply out in nature.
You got it. And figuring out your priorities will help you determine how much money you actually need to feel good and secure in retirement.
And speaking of security, someone in that Reddit thread brought up working part-time even after retiring.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like having the best of both worlds, right?
I think that's becoming more and more common these days. People are retiring earlier or they just want to stay active and involved. A part-time job could bring in some extra cash, keep you social, and even give you a sense of purpose. Plus, it takes some pressure off your investments if you're not relying on them for everything.
Right. And it doesn't have to be a traditional job either. It could be something fun, you know, teaching a class, starting a little side hustle, volunteering for a cause you believe in.
Totally. It's all about redefining what retirement means for you, finding new passions, a lifestyle that matches your values.
So we've talked about APY, the 4% rule investment strategies. But what about inflation? That's got to be a big factor, right?
Ah, yes, the silent wealth killer inflation can really eat away at your savings over time. What you could live comfortably on today might not cut it in 20 years, so you got to make sure your money is working hard enough to keep up with rising costs.
Got it. What about Social Security? Does that factor in here?
Absolutely. It's a good safety net, but it's meant to supplement your savings, not be your only source of income in retirement. How much you get depends on your work history and when you start claiming those benefits.
Right. So waiting longer to claim means bigger monthly checks later.
Exactly. But everyone's situation is different. Got to weigh the pros and cons and figure out what makes sense for you.
This is a lot to think about, but I feel like I'm getting a much better grasp on this stuff now.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, but there's one more thing that popped up on Reddit that really caught my attention.
Oh, yeah.
And it all comes down to location, location, location.
You're talking about moving to a place with a lower cost of living, sometimes even overseas.
Yes.
Stretch that retirement budget even further. Some people call it geo-arbitrage.
Geo-arbitrage.
Yeah.
Now that sounds fancy. So is it really a viable option? Because some folks in that thread were practically dreaming about living like kings and queens in Southeast Asia on 60 grand a year.
Yeah.
Living like royalty. Sign me up. But is it really that easy? Just pick up and move somewhere cheaper?
Well, it's not quite that simple. Geo-arbitrage can be tempting, especially if you're trying to make that retirement money last longer. And yeah, you could probably live pretty well on $60,000 a year in some parts of Southeast Asia. But you got to think about the trade-offs.
Like what kind of trade-offs?
Yeah. Well, cultural differences, language barriers, access to healthcare visas even. It's a big decision to move to a whole new country, even if it means your money goes further.
Right. It's not just about the cost of living.
Yeah.
Got to consider your whole lifestyle. And speaking of lifestyle, remember how the original poster was all about having freedom? Made me think about how retirement isn't just about finances. It's about how you want to spend your time.
Absolutely. Even if you could live comfortably off your investments, would you want to just kick back and relax all the time? Or would you need something more, some sense of purpose or accomplishment?
That's a good point. Work can be more than just a paycheck. It can give you a sense of identity and keep you connected to people.
Exactly. That's why more and more people are choosing to work part-time or do passion projects even after they retire. It's about finding that balance between financial security and a life that feels meaningful.
So it's not about retiring from something, but retiring to something.
I like that. Retiring to something, spending more time with family, traveling, volunteering, starting a business, whatever lights you up. It's about making your time and energy match what's important to you.
And maybe that's the real takeaway from all this, right? It's not just about the numbers, the spreadsheets, the investment strategies. It's about figuring out what a good life looks like to you, and making choices that get you there.
Couldn't agree more. Financial planning's important, sure, but it's a tool to help us live better lives. And that means thinking about our values, our passions, what brings us joy, not just the bottom line.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with this. Take some time to think about what truly matters to you. What are your dreams, your aspirations, your vision of a fulfilling life?
And then ask yourself, what can you do starting today to create a life that reflects those values?
It's been great exploring this topic with you. And remember, this is just a taste of the world of personal finance and retirement planning. There's always more to learn.
If you're interested in diving deeper, do some research, find resources that speak to you.
And if you enjoy this deep dive, share it with your friends and family. Might spark some interesting conversations for them too.
And of course, if you want more thought-provoking discussions like this, be sure to subscribe to Voices of the Soul wherever you get your podcasts.
You can find us on YouTube too. Just search for Shauna Pelage. We release new videos every week covering all kinds of topics, from personal growth and spirituality to finance and investing, of course.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep asking those big questions and keep exploring what it means to live a truly fulfilling life.